Hello everyone, one of my YouTube subscriber asks how to model a nut in Rhino 3D. I would like to show you the process in this video and even more, let's make it into a ring. And welcome back to Chen Design Channel. This channel is to share Rhino 3D knowledge to help students and 3D model professionals to learn various Rhino techniques. Are you ready? Let's get started. Like most of my tutorial, I always like to look at the image and kind of understand the structure before I actually model. So go to the Google, type it nut. And in the nut, you have different kind of nut here, but I see a lot of repetition like for example on this one, and also those two right there. So I'm going to use this as an example to build our tutorial. So go ahead and save the image, I already save it, and we're gonna bring into the Rhino and use it as a reference. To start with it, I always like to starting with the curve. So let's bring in the image to look at how our curve is going to position. Let's go ahead to the command bar right here and type it picture frame. And then you will bring in the image you just download from the internet, and then we're gonna bring the image right here. First, let's use the arc tool to creating the arc for those two on the outside, and then make sure my grid snap is on. So I'm gonna simply making roughly about this and kind of mirror to the other side to make sure it's symmetrical. Okay, and look like I have a curve. It's gonna go from this point to this point. So I'm going to use the blend tool. I'm gonna blend from this point to this point. All right, so you kind of give me a really nice curve right there. I'm going to use the blend tool again to blend from this to this. But let's take a look closer on the detail. It looks like it's not blending all the way to the bottom. It's blending to two ends. So instead of making it into the bottom, I'm gonna draw two straight lines here. It doesn't matter how long is it, it's just for our reference. And we're gonna blend with the blend tool. We're gonna blend from this point to this point. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one gonna blend from the bottom to this point. Okay, so now looking at it, we got a really similar structure right there. Okay, so after that, let's join all of them. Okay, now they become a single curve right there, and we need to kind of guessing who is going up, who is going down. So I'm gonna open all four view and still looking at this picture. So now let's look at the perspective view. If I turn on the control point, I kind of notice the one on the bottom of that part need to go a little bit lower. Now look at this, it has a kink there. It's because when we join all together, it has all the seam where the join point. So let's go back one step. If you have something like this, the first things you wanted to do is to rebuild. When we rebuild a curve, it's going to turning into a single curve, so there will be no seam in between. Let's try to take a look on the different point. If I'm going to use the let's enlarge this view. If I'm going to use 12 point, you see how much deviation that is, right? So I need to increase a little bit and try to get it as close as possible. So this one is not too bad, right? So it has a little bit deviation, and if you want to get closer, you want to bump up the number a little bit more. Okay, so get it really close, and because it's really like a rope, it doesn't have to be like so geometric, so that it could be accept. So I'm gonna click OK right there. Okay, now go back to what we were doing right here. Okay, so now looking at this nut, right at this point, we want this nut go lower, and on the opposite side, this one need to go a little bit higher, just a little bit, right? And you may want to turn off your grease snap, so that way you can freely to snapping into any of the position that you want, right? So we want this a little bit higher. Okay, so now this is going lower, so what that means is this 2 point will need to go a little bit lower. So let's open the perspective is bigger, easier for you to see, and let's move this one there. All right. So with this, and then that's moving here at this point right here, it need to be a little bit taller. So once you move it here, I'm gonna move this point up a little bit, and I'm moving everything with the gumball, right? Coming back here, it's getting lower. So on the top view, they still look the same. I'm just moving with the gumball, okay? And then come back here, this point get higher, so this is going higher a little bit, and want it to be smooth. So the neighborhood point, you need to move a little bit too. So then it's coming back, all right? So look like we have something good to start with. And let me move this down a little bit. All right, and we can keep adjusting until we get it close, but I would suggest you do this way. You want to record the history and using the pipe tool and to select your rail and giving any of the preferred thickness that you like. All right, so once we have this, and because we are recording history, and let me turn the curve into the red color so it's easier for you to see. Now we have this, we can change it with the history recorded. So look at this point right here, it seems it's a little bit higher. So I'm gonna turn on the control point right here and find out the point right there to make it a little bit higher. So the curve will go with it, right? So I need it a little bit higher, something like this. And then maybe the gap is kind of too big right there. So I'm going to looking at the picture on my top view and kind of adjust the gap there. I'm gonna select everything on the bottom and it's kind of moving up a little bit, and as you can see your pipe is moving as well. And you don't want to move too much at once because it will lose that very nice flow over there. Just move a little bit one at a time. Let's keep tweaking. So I'm going to fast forward the video so you don't feel like don't feel boring for seeing me doing all of this. But I want to fast forward the video so you can get my entire process. You don't have to worry about they are not symmetrical because it's a nut, right? So supposedly they shouldn't be completely symmetrical to make it more human-made or like a human carved on the ring. So what I try to do is to try to make sure that it's matching to the picture as possible, and also delete the two ends so it's not coming out that much. As soon as you delete it, it will be shorter, but still keep the cap on the side. Okay, so we no longer need this image. I'm going to delete it. And before we making into the ring, this is a really important concept I wanted to talk about here. As you can see, this is a piping work coming from one single line, right? There's a lot of intersection there, right? So it's on top of each other, and there's no way you can trim in between. Right? If you try to trim, you need to select two parts, and we only have one part now beside the cap. So it's hard to trim. And why this is gonna be the problem is because when you try to go, let's say we're gonna have this one next to the other one, and I try to bowling this one and this one, then your computer will tell you the bowling unit is failed. And the reason it's failing is because there's a lot of a part to intersect it to itself, and that will cause you a bowling unit fail. To address this issue, we can do one of my tricks to address this issue is here. I'm going to hide this curve. By looking at this one, I'm gonna draw two of the curve about 1/3 of the model right here. So somewhere there. Like the reason I put it there is I'm going to split them. So you don't want to split in somewhere like it has a confusing part, like that little triangle right there. So I want to put it on the top view. It look like this. Let me turn this into the red color for you. All right, so this is really important step. Otherwise, if you finish the ring, you will have a super hard time to bowling, almost impossible. Okay, so don't escape or avoid this step. So we are going to use the split tool. And this is the object will be split and split by those two lines. Okay, and it will say we break the history. That's okay because we no longer need to tweak it. Now you see I have it turning into multiple part here. Okay, so my goal is making those multiple parts into the solid. All right, so that's starting with the right side. This and this, I'm going to type a command CAD. Okay, so now they are sorted by looking at a property closed solid poly surface. So I'm gonna do here, 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 and type it cap as well, here, here, and cap it as well. So now if you look at my perspective, you're going to see they all have a surface right in the middle for them. All right, so all we need to do is bowling all of this. Now, if you take a look in there, it's kind of cutting whatever is touching. So we no longer have the any of the shape in there, right? So of course you're not able to edit at this point. So you want to do the shape and edit it before you do this step. Okay, this is really important step. So let's go to the next step. I'm gonna creating a new layer. So with this new layer, I'm gonna name it as a ring shank. Okay, so let's go to the ring shank and let's turn that off. Like most of my tutorial, I'm going to do is 16mm radius 8. So that's my ring shank, and I don't want to do just the straight ring shank. We want to do some wavy ring shank. So let me rebuild this curve into let's say 12. Okay, so I'm gonna pick up the control point in my front view. I'm gonna pick up this one, like jumping one in between. Okay, with all those pick up, I'm going to make them come up a little bit on my top view. So you can see my perspective. Now I have a wavy design. Okay, on my right view, I'm going to create a profile. So let's do the arc, the straight line, I'm sorry, and then I'm gonna use the arc, snapping into the midpoint, coming here like this. Okay, and then basically I need to join those two curves, and also like to make it rounded a little bit. So that's filter the edges for maybe 0.35. So once you sweep inside of a ring shank, it's not too sharp on the edge. And then I want to draw a space that's going to cut out to make sure they line up right in the center. So I'm going to use a align vertical tool. And maybe that's too big. All right, so this is the area that we have. I'm gonna select both of them and trim the area that I don't need. Okay, so once it is done, we are going to round it the edges a little bit. Let's try 0.2 on this area. Okay, great. So now we have a profile. All we need to do is to make the surface, So I'm going to use the sweep one rail. So this is the rail, this is the profile, and then I get this one here. Okay, double check. This is too big of the curve. My profile is too big. I'm going to scale it down just a little bit like this, and let's do one more time. Rail cross section, and let's take a look on where the turning is. All right, I still have the fold there. If this is for rendering, you probably can get away with it, but if you're gonna print, this is gonna be an issue. All right, and then so I'm going to delete it, and maybe I shouldn't have that much of the curve. And let's do one more time. Sweep one. And sometimes I like to show you my process completely because that might be something that you probably will experience too. All right, so bear with me. It takes a few more seconds to understand this. Okay, so now it looks nice, and I will suggest you to check on all the very detail on each of the process and thinking about the printing and see if you can get it print really well before you keep moving on. Otherwise, once you've done everything, as you need to go back all the steps. So let's turn on the nut, and let's make a copy of this nut somewhere else by moving the gumball and hit Alt key. Okay, and then let me move this guy to the shank and turn the original off. We always want to keep the original just in case something happened. All right, so we need to know how to arrange this one to that one, how many of them. So the way to do is go into the curve. You have curve from the object, and then you have create UV curve. Okay, so we're gonna pick up this interior on the bottom, and then we want to create a UV curve from there. Let's pick up. So this is the area. Let's take a look on the top view. This is the area showing if the interior flattened out, and that's the area you can have a design. So I'm gonna have my nut, scale it down, put it right there, and maybe you can adjust to any angle that you like. Maybe I'll just keep that. That's kind of interesting, right? And then so somewhere there. And what also you can do is you can always use the align tool to make sure they are right in the center, right? So actually I do want to move it a little bit more of like this. Maybe a little bit more. Okay. Now we want to take a look how many they will be coming out. So let's do the array and linear array. We pick up our object, and I'm just gonna set it for 12. I think it's more than enough. All right, starting from the endpoint, and then you want to make sure they are overlapping just a little bit so you have something to bowling once you want to bowling them. Okay, so yes, we have more than enough. I'm right. All right, and it's actually come out really good. It's a little bit hanging outside of this box, and that hanging part will come into here, so it will look more like a continuous piece. Okay, so that's a good arrangement, and let's take a look how we make it back to this ring. Next step, let's see how we can make those design back to the ring shank. So first of all, we need to make a reference surface to reference this surface that we have a UV from. So I'm going to use the command, it's called surface from planar curve, and then pick up this curve, hit enter. So then you will get this surface right there. I'm going to turn the surface into the red color so it's easier for you to see. Now this is a red color surface is referred to the surface on the ring shank. In this case, the surface is actually cutting a lot of model, and then you actually want all the model to show up. So let's go into the perspective. And then you're gonna move it down a little bit so that way you can see all the link clearly. Okay, so kind of adjust to the position, see how you like it. Now let's go back to the perspective. Right. If you pay a really detailed attention to this ring, you're going to see a very dark line right there. All right. That is not because there's a curve there. That's because that's a seam of our surface. All right. So that means that seam right there is equal the seam right there on our surface. Okay. So we need to make sure that the seam is, when we click, is this corner compared to this corner right there. Okay, so let's go to the command. It's under the transform, and you have flow along surface. Okay, so I ask you what do you want to flow. So we're gonna pick up all the object that we have designed on the flat surface. Okay, and enter will ask you base surface. Let's pick up this corner right there. And then target surface, we want to pick up this corner, and let's see how it flows. Okay, so it might take a while, depends on your computer, see how strong it is, but you kind of see this is actually becoming really well connected. It's overlapping a little bit, and let's examine all of them, and they all look really nice. Go over there. So let's take a look on the render view. All right, so it kind of stretch a little bit right there. It's because we have this curvature. So whatever you flow back, it might stretch a little bit, which is pretty good for our purpose because it is the knot. It's supposed to look natural. Okay, so this is the tutorial for today, how to make a knot and how to make the knot pattern into the ring. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and comment and share my video. That will be a great help to me. Even write it down. I like this video. That's helping me on my YouTube ranking. Thank you, and I will see you next Monday.